get wobbly tonight, boy.
Yeah, boy.
We wobbly tonight.
What kind of wobbly do you do, man?
We almost in the color.
You shaking like Arsenal in the top four.
We almost had to sing the college hymn there, you know.
Oh.
Wait, let's happen. Full salam. Good night, villagers, and welcome to the season finale, believe it or not. The season finale.
That's it.
As we like to call it tonight, of the Heights Room. Sorry, and this is what episode? Episode what?
30 something. Maybe actually like episode 30 on the dot, actually. Because I think, if not 30, 29. We up there. I can't remember right now. But
so we out there. 29.
Real episodes out there. Lots of hours and hours of video content. Quality content, if I may say so myself.
Right, all that we're talking about. And we have with us tonight a nice team. Right? So maybe you could bring that. I can't really see who we have, so maybe Mr. You could bring up and I will introduce.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna bring on the ladies first.
All right.
It could be.
So first up we have Miss Sarah Maharaj, my colleague out there in the education field. Good night, Sarah.
Good night, everybody. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Right, lovely. And next we have Miss Renelle White, who is no stranger to the show. Hi, Renelle.
Hi. Good night, y'all. Thanks for bringing me on again. Here for the heights, as usual.
Of course, we all know Renelle as an extra heightsy one. The T-shirt says it all. The unapologetic feminist and gender relations specialist, gender studies specialist. And now that I believe that would wrap up the females, I believe. Do we have any more?
No, unfortunately.
Unfortunately not. So
we real boy,
Mr. D. Devin Kisoon, straight out of Preston. What are you saying there, brother?
Hey, good night, everybody. Thanks for having me. Come to bring the heights.
Right. Next up, we have
Mr. Kansen, a loyal, regular viewer.
Good day.
Kansen,
nice to be in. Pretty good.
Yeah, I seen that. Like in the hermit mode these days. I seen that.
Plenty work.
That's always a good thing. Keeping busy with the work. That's always a good thing.
And we have the real general himself, the original.
Boy, the honorable.
Good night, everyone. Good night to the panel. Good night to the viewers.
Lovely.
Good night.
Now, if I didn't realize, we have a certain man missing, but that's it for now, Toriano. We have a certain man again. We have one man again. We have a man as suspected.
So, like Arsenal, he dropped out the top rankings,
Yeah.
I gotta message him and see what's his situation.
All right, so he had to come back in. So we'll bring him up in a little while. But I guess you all would have noticed there's somebody missing, and that is Mr. Lessie himself. Shankara is a bit busy with work. He had some engagements. He's in some meetings. He told us once it is that he could jump in, he will jump in. So we're hoping and praying that for the season finale, we will get to see boy Lessie, the ultimate Yogi Rasta himself. Now,
look the one back in there. Still fixing the land screen.
Boy, and tonight we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Vashish Suraj Singh, sir.
Thanks.
Mr. Suraj Singh, good night. Are you hearing us?
I'm a little busy right now. So let me
tell him he's on. Tell him he is
Vashish,
on.
organize yourself now, man.
Vashish, you hearing us? Are you hearing us, Vashish?
I have no audio. Are you hearing me?
Okay, Torian, take him off and see if you can deal with him off. Toilet probably do that scene on the off now.
Yeah.
Right. Toilet do that scene on the off. Yes, my bros. Yes, Grand, big up yourself. Big up Bisham. Where's the vibes? It's our big line tonight, fellas. It's our big line tonight. We're celebrating. We're celebrating
a celebration. That's what
it is. A full season of shows. We're taking a little break to come back better and bigger. But I mean, at the same time, I think we had a good run for this year so far. What do you think, Torian?
I think so. It was good. It was a long stretch. That is up and down, but we'll touch on that a little bit later in the episode. But yeah, it was good. I know I joined late, but it was good. It was good.
All right. Well, it is what it is. We hoping Leslie could come and talk more about the genesis, because it's really Leslie who had started that genesis of how this show start. Now, tonight we say we wouldn't, touch on any one topic in particular, since we have, this lovely panel tonight with so many different experts. We could get views on a lot of different things. And one of the things that is really, really close to my situation right now is, school. Right now, teachers are back out in school dealing with Form 4s and Form 6 students, right? And it's a bit of a tricky situation, because there was online school for a long time, and now there's physical school, and there needs to be a balance there. But the first day of online school, it seemed that people, they were so excited that men had to beat men and thing randomly in the middle of the class and all that kind of thing. So I don't know if you all saw the video, but there was a video that went viral, and it said first day of school. It probably wasn't the first day of school. It probably was maybe,
early days.
2-3 days into school, right? These will be Form 4, Form 5 students, upper school students. They didn't look like Form 6. And you're just seeing two fellas just going in hard, just coughing up the small man. The man who's smaller than them, the man looking real frightened. The man looking, that he clearly in for something. He's like breaks in, and it's just like, cameraman just, he good at frame and everything. He's like, okay, fellas, you ready for this, right? Are you ready? Yeah. And he just had to beat the man, right? And to see this happen, and it seemed to be like, also a boys' school. From what I could see, it looked like a boys' school, but I'm not sure. I have no confirmation on the school, and I wouldn't really want to get into all of that, because at the end of the day, whether it is a boys' school, a preppy school, whatever you want to call it, it could be any school. It doesn't matter. What we see in here is something that is already happening as soon as we go back out into physical school. Now, Renell, you being someone who have gone into schools to talk about certain issues and so on, what is your take on this kind of activity and how the society reacts to it? Because there's a lot of reactions and all of this, and what is really at play here, and what do you think about the situation?
No, that was I just watched the video right before. It's a real short little clip, and they just went real brutal on the fella boy. And I mean, as someone who works for an organization, as you all know, the Silver Lining Foundation, we all about trying to mitigate violence in schools, violence and bullying in schools. And the last time I was on the show, I told you all that the week after we would be launching our new 2019 survey, right? After we went into all these schools, we went nap something and all of that too earlier. Not the girls, the boys, right? And I have some of the findings here, and the realities, the real life situations, the videos that we see, and all these things are happening. Things that all you probably remember from school and thing too. The findings, it adds up, right? So we've seen a lot of physical bullying, physical assaults, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in girls' schools, because violence is just a way of life, especially in the Caribbean, where we tend to put so much importance and emphasis on being aggressive and bullying and being violent and whatnot as part of our identities. Even more particularly so for young men and boys. Hypermasculinity, hegemonic masculinity, which is this dominant mode of trying to be a man, right? So yeah, I mean, it wasn't shocking. It wasn't a surprise.
But you think this was, to me it was shocking, like school now stand back.
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing, right?
You think this is something like exacerbated by the COVID situation?
Definitely something exacerbated by the pandemic and the COVID situation, because we home, we stuck up inside. Is there any emotional intelligence learning and training going on online, right? Definitely not. I think a lot of people have a lot of pent-up energy, and together with the expectation and the norms that boys will be boys, that bullshit, I can say bullshit, right? Boys will be, boys will be boys. I can say what I want. Boys will be boys. If you had to be a real man, you had to be aggressive, and, from the home, you hear fathers telling the children, they say, mothers perpetuate the patriarchy, the most sometimes, because they are the ones who we put in charge of teaching and socializing and all of that, right? So definitely, all these things, you go right back to gender socialization, you go right back to the patriarchal system that we live in, you go right back to culture, you go right back to hyper masculinity, you go back to that idea of you can't be a soft man, right? So maybe, I don't know these fellas' background in that video. You never know. We can't tell what was going on in the homes or in the lives of the perpetrators of the violence, the bullies themselves, those doing the violence, because we can't just knock them and say, hey, all these bad fellas, go from here. The whole idea of restorative justice as opposed to punitive punishment is to try to figure out what's going on in everyone's lives, the one being bullied and the ones doing the bullying themselves, right?
Well, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. We do not know what caused that. Youths on the whole, everything is a big deal, right? Everything is a big deal. So we don't know what caused that situation. But when you look at what people are saying, a lot of the reactions on social media would say things like, well, we have to teach our children how to be able to fight and things. And people saying that, we have to not have soft men who can't stand up for this. Like, what is we really watching? We're watching the man who get beaten saying he should be able to fight back. That's what we're really looking at.
Like.
Sarah, what you think about that thinking, Sarah? Like when somebody saying that the person we really have to watch there and say, well, what is this? Is the person who getting the licks? What are you thinking? Okay, hold on there, Sarah. Hold on there for a second. I think
you're good to go. You're good to go.
There.
Right. Even when I was a student, it didn't happen personally in my school. There are 2 points I want to raise. It didn't personally happen in my school, but there were other schools where fights would break out. And the culture of the school would be the prefects would say, hey, place your bets here on who's going to win the fight. Wow. Right? And, it's interesting what they did. Not only did they get into a fight in the first couple days of school, but they made sure to record it and post it up. So the audience didn't only just become the children in the school who would have been egging it on from the sideline, right? But it went public now. So the whole audience, it gets expanded to the nation, right? And also, I think Renelle has a good point about violence, being perpetrated in the sense of you telling people, oh, you're going to take that, you're a soft man, etc., etc. But people are assuming that, okay, maybe they had some instances when they got to school that made them get violent with each other, but there are also instances where online bullying is happening. Children are saying things, jam boards being used by teachers. Students have abused those resources, right, to bully each other. So it is entirely possible that they could have gone back physically into school with some baggage.
Right.
That's just my 2 cents on it.
Now, one of the fellas who would have been growing up and taking part in some of these kind of activities, being a boy growing up and thing, I can't say, but somebody here might have been in a little tussle or two, right? What are you thinking? Let me hear from Mr. Kisoon.
Well, I'll be quite honest. Good night, everybody, again. That whole going up to a boys' school and stuff like that, we had our fights, we had our interactions, the whole macho thing where you had to battle with one another. Going forward, we talk about the guys, but I work in a co-ed school now, and it's very much different in that school compared to the school like we went to NAPS. There are a lot of fights in school, basically on a daily basis, all over the school. Our school is huge, right? And there are boys and girls going at it. Sometimes there was a fight last 2 years with some girls that was crazy, right? And Renelle touched on a point, emotional intelligence, which is something that we were never taught that in school. We never really touched that. We never had things like guidance counselors, things like that in our time, right? Let's be honest. Most of us, people of our age and a little older, we are the influence now. We are the parents, we are the teachers, we work at the schools, things like that. So, we didn't come from that background. So, train up a child in the way they should go and they will never depart from it. So, the things that they are learning now and our society as a whole does not focus on that emotional intelligence. And that is something that we need to introduce in schools. And not just schools, in society at large, because your mind is just like your other body parts. Like you go to a gym to train your body, but you have to train your mind as well. And coming from that tender age when they start secondary school, even in primary school, we have to have that convergence of the formal education and the emotional part of it to deal with certain things, like if someone approaches you in a certain way, how to react, find out things about what is going on at home. There's a big disparity between, I'll be quite honest, between the home and the school environment, right? I could recall a couple of years ago, there was a big incident in school, and I'm not putting blame on anyone at all. I would hope that we could try to work together for the common good, but there was a situation where a parent came to school because there was a school fight, and the child involved in the fight was disciplined, and the parent came and caused a big commotion. How could you discipline my child? Why
Right.
why would you discipline my child? Why would you do this? And a fight broke out between the parent and the teachers.
God.
And
we go.
me, being
Duh.
ancillary staff, had to go to the parent, take the parent who had a 2-year-old child in her hand, take the baby from her hand, and try to quell this whole situation. So I'm not scared of saying anything that
Yeah.
goes on to my school. I will be real with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
be honest,
I hear
right?
you. I hear you. I hear you.
But there's a lot of things that we need to deal with, and it is more so on the environment of these students and what they are being taught, what is going on with them, and teaching them how to understand their emotions as they go from adolescence to being an adult, because it will compound itself and it will continue in our society, because you could see it from our generation and the generation before, because
Right.
our emotional intelligence was not matured. It goes down, and it will keep going down, and it will keep getting worse. So that's just my take on it. Yeah.
Correct. Very, very well said, Kisun. Because as you said, our age group, our age group are the parents of students. You
Mhm.
understand?
We have a
And
question here. I don't know if Renel might be able to shed some light on it.
Right. Is
is
this
this
statement
statement
correct?
correct?
Yeah, go ahead, Qatar. Read it.
Psychological bullying is more prevalent in prestigious schools, and physical bullying is more prevalent in non-prestigious schools.
Right. So what we I don't know where he pulled in this statement from, Rajiv, if you're listening. I don't know where you're getting the statement from. Exactly, if you want to share it with us. But from what we found, our findings and the trends, right? Really more like bullying patterns or bullying trends. We did find that yes, psychological or mental or and even cyberbullying is more prevalent in quote unquote prestigious schools, because they actually have so much more of a disciplinarian, authoritative sort of environment in these schools, especially when it comes to religion, right? So they use religion a lot of times as fair. And we see many other things happening in these schools, like conversion therapy and all that, but that's a whole different story, using religion to convert. So I think that, this statement, we could say that it has some sort of accuracy or weight to it, because from our survey, and you all can check it out on the Silver Lining Foundation's website, silverlining.tt.com. It is true, from what we found as a trend. And like I said, I think the whole culture as well. And if we start to break down the segregation and this different type of culture that we have in prestigious schools and non-prestigious schools and so on, that would make a big difference as well in terms of like education and how schools and children learn and perceive things and emotional intelligence and all these things, right? But yeah, the discipline is just so much more, and there's a lot less leeway and a lot less fair in non-prestigious schools. The teachers also too, after a while, they just get fed up. They tell us when we go to these schools, are fed up of the kids. We scared of them too. They would, manipulate us as well, right? And also to this whole idea that you are going to a prestigious school, they're molding you into being this certain type of morality, a good girl, a good boy. The repercussions of these actions, I think it is more severe, or it is mapped out to be more severe in schools that are prestigious as opposed to government schools, where it's like you could do what you ask you want, you could kick down the teacher, you could fight with your friends, you get a little detention, you're coming back and nothing is changing when you come back there, right? But of course, it still doesn't take away from the fact that we need to change the climate, and we have some recommendations, and that included what Devin said. And I was so glad to hear him say that as a teacher, as a male teacher. We went to his school as well. He forget that we went to his school and he helped me out a little bit to try to get the surveys done. But yeah, definitely that's one of the recommendations. An entire school climate reform, which would include emotional intelligence. And of course, you can't be having emotional intelligence learning in school and you're not doing it at home. So a lot of times the teachers, not the teachers, the parents actually obstruct that process, right? So it's a cycle all over again. So we need to break that cycle, right?
Mr. Ramu, chime in.
Mr. Ramu.
Yes, so Fawaz actually mentioned the school, and what I've learned is that it's not the first time this school has been flagged for violence. It happened some years ago, to the point that some of the students were actually arrested and carried to court. So when we're looking at the violence in school, we have to look at the management of the school, we have to look at the culture of the school, and then we have to look outside of that. Where these children come from, the home, is the background of the home, is it violent, or what about the community they come from? As well. And to Rajiv's point about psychological bullying and stuff, what the practice here has found, the psychology practice has found, is that physical bullying is more prevalent in boys' schools, while psychological bullying is more found in girls' schools. And I think that is a whole topic by itself that you could do in the future, bullying between boys, co-ed, and girls' schools.
Definitely.
That Ramu give me topic here. Best we were dropping Ramu, boy, cut out, boy.
My boy Kansan, let me hear a little something now. I know you went to the boys' schools as well, so you would have a little thing too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually went to Presentation College in Chaguanas. So, I mean, that was quite some time ago now, but I mean, I'm sure the experience hasn't changed that much. I mean, perhaps it did, but I can definitely attest to the fact that you find a kind of culture to that whole macho culture, and I need to, for some guys to assert themselves on others because of physical dominance or whatever. And of course, that's usually what happens. They find the guys that are developing more, or maybe been out and about and had a rougher life. They'll come in the school, and that is their way of like a certain dominance and having control in a new situation. So definitely, you see the link playing off a lot between what's going on in people's homes and what happens in the schools. Because I'm sure you guys would realize that you have certain experiences with people while you're going to school with them, and then years later, as you learn about them and you learn about the life they live, you're like, oh shit, no, I could kind of understand where some of this was coming from,
Right.
And I mean, societally, what it really gets to is conflict resolution. I'm not sure how much arguments or fights, verbal fights, we get in this country where both people can take something away and go and come to a point where the argument comes to a natural end. I think we are accustomed to a style where both parties just take their end very strongly and go more in the opposite direction. So the discourse never happens. The give and take never really happens. So maybe that is a factor in it culturally, how we look at culture. At conflict resolution. Because I don't believe in the fights I saw in school and from the fights I had that the teachers really taught us how to resolve conflict. It was just like, well, you did something bad, and we're going to punish you for doing anything bad. It was never, well, how are you going to resolve this better in the future and not act this way? That's really my experience about it.
Correct. Getting down to that level and understanding, well, what is offending this one and that one? What is really their grows, you understand? And trying to show them that, this is not something that you need to get on like this about. But again. Devin, you wanted something to say something else on this topic, I believe.
Yeah, with regards to Rajiv's comment, right? As I said, we went to a prestigious school. I currently work in a government board school, and the psychological bullying is very much prevalent in that school as well. They are using basically as well the online platforms. I remember teaching certain classes, and they are sharing it not only to students but to people in the community to come and introduce cyberbullying and things in a classroom setting, just as if they were there, right? And it has gotten to the point where this has blown out of proportion a couple times, to the point where we had to call in the police and a branch of the army to come in because we had gang warfare going on in school, and it was two rival neighborhoods that they brought into the school, and they blocked both of the gates, right? So nobody could come in or come out. And we had to lock the admin office in terms of they were outside pelting stones. They had guns and stuff like that out on the front, and the MTS was not in control of the situation. So there's a lot of things that you see in the news. There's a lot of, going to a prestigious school, we will never really privy to knowing these kind of things really go on. But in these kind of settings, going into these kind of schools, I will tell you, there's a lot of things that you don't see in the media. And that's why I say we stem back to the household and the communities. And that's why all the stakeholders need to be involved in the emotional intelligence and actual intelligence of these students, because they still have a fight. Everyone has a fighting chance in life, right? But these students more so is at the point where they can be molded, and the communities that bring these guys up in certain areas are molded into something that is leaking into the school system. And Renelle is very much right. She came to my school. I remember Renelle. I was reading your report today. That's why I was talking to you about it earlier. And it's you said something where the teachers are actually afraid. I remember a situation. I'm not a teacher, just to clear that up. I worked for Nalis in the library system. And there was a situation in school with a boy and me personally in the library. And the dean and stuff was there, and this boy was being disrespectful or whatever. And she was afraid to tell the guy anything because he's part of a gang, right? I, on the other hand, I went and talked to him, and I got to realize that the guy was coming from a really bad home. He didn't have a computer home to do his schoolwork and things like that. Now I spoke to him. I brought him, took him under my wing. I helped him open a business, and now he's a full-fledged barber. He's doing his stuff and that kind of thing. So individual attention. The system is already bogged down in terms of there's so many people that have to pass through the system that you can't really get the individual attention. But you have to really listen to these students, right? And probably bring in more people, put more focus on their mental well-being to produce an all-around person that we could bring into society, because it will compound itself in the end. Is either they go and do something, bad, or they go and do something to themselves, and that starts in the school. So that's something that I just had to add to the discussion.
For my 2 cents, that's some really good points, Devin. For my 2 cents with this issue, we could also argue that a school is a microcosm of a society, right? And a lot of the issues that you see in a school, I don't know if everybody heard this, but when I was going to school, your teachers would say, you're all not ready for these streets. It's a cruel world out there. And sometimes you would see that in a school too. At a young age, when you see the ideology of some students as opposed to others, you realize how different everybody is, right? But I also like what Devin is saying, where this child, he has taken the child under his wing, and now the child is a baba. And I think when a lot of students recognize that somebody is willing to accept, it's not a matter of ability, but everybody's calling and aptitude in life is different.
Correct.
And when children have that figure in their life that says, you don't have to fit this mold. You can be you can be what you want to be, in a constructive, safe way. Then change happens, instead of you have to be this way, you have to pass this test. And because that's not applicable to all of those children, it's not in their thinking. Everybody's different, everybody's passion in life it varies, and some of them need that to get out of negative patterns. They need something positive to hold on to. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and if we quickly go back to that video that made the rounds, if you recall, when something traumatic happens back in secondary school, as time goes by, it becomes a memory. And as you get older, it's up to you to actually do some healing work to try to get over it. But in this case, this video is recorded and it's now on the internet. So that means the victim is being traumatized over and over and over again. And it's going to be very difficult for this person to get over something like this. And this is why society, we need persons in school, social groups to go into these schools and help these kinds of students and navigate out of this trauma, because it will affect him throughout his time in school, and especially when he goes on in life, because now it's on the internet, it's there forever.
I hear you. Kansan.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I totally agree with what he was saying there. I mean, and going back to the thing about the fact that your early childhood socialization is responsible for the behavior that you learn in interacting with others, and so much happens at home during those key years that teachers have to be able to well, we have to ask ourselves: are teachers properly resourced, and are they equipped to identify when someone is a victim of trauma, and if it takes a village to raise a child, where in the school, where in the village is the school, and what role do we want it to play? How much into your personal life do people or will people allow the school to look in? That's the next thing we have to ask ourselves, because when you try to assist some of these families from say a crisis center or something, when you're in an institution like that, and you see how it is, and you see children not being registered for simple things like their birth certificates, we're seeing people who not even making it into the schooling system. And perhaps what's going on is you have children who aren't even in the schooling system, and they are interacting with kids that are going to school. So the learning is coming from an environment, and you have all these disparate influences there. So what is really going on in that early childhood socialization that we are missing out on, and how are we going to assist teachers to bridge the gap in identifying and helping them?
Smash.
Hey, good night, everyone. I do think I got to say hello. My people.
Hi, Smash.
Hello. So, I'm not teaching in any school or anything, but I distinctly remember growing up in Knox and everything good. I don't think I get into any physical fights or anything. But a big thing I think people just overlook and they don't realize until they get older is all the little jokes you make in front of people every day. I mean, I used to do it a lot. You make in fun of people, you get on to them, and you don't really realize the effect this can have on people. So Like the
Correct.
mental part of it, I
Correct.
think, is something people really need to highlight because everybody laughing with it, everybody picking on somebody every day, but this person going home and we don't know what's going on with them and
It's true.
how things gonna turn out, and it can affect people seriously, and we none the wiser. We just think we's boys, we joking around every day, everybody laughing and saying, but that person having a real hard time.
Yeah.
And
I think that, like, it is a cultural thing with men. I mean, women will pick on each other too, and thing. I mean, people just bully people, right? But it is a rite of passage for men to waste on each other. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing. But and it never something that sat well with me, because we would all take part in it at a point in time. But when it happened, you'll always have a point where somebody might say something to you and you'll feel a kind of honer, but you'll brush it off really, and you will say, nah, well, them just talks to everybody. But when you think about it have men used to get the butt at it more than other people. You know what I mean? And you don't know what that making them feel about themselves and their self-esteem. And these things, the things that happen to us at those ages, my friends, change us for life. And people don't realize that. And they're like, oh, well, you're just growing up and thing. I know it's a big man now. But the big man is a product of what happened in those formative years. And the big man cannot change. Like, just like when you're a child, if you don't learn to read at the age of 2, 3, 4, 5, you can't learn to read at 10. Because your brain is learning language at a different rate at that point. In our teens, our social interaction and getting that sense of self and thing is so much more. That if in those years you destroy somebody's self-esteem, they might not recover from that. Or they'll have to go through leaps and bounds to recover from that. You understand? And it's sad that, that is a normal thing to kind of take part in that kind of culture. It is normalized. And this is why I would always say toxic masculinity. And I mean, it's not only males, but it's a real thing now. It is a real thing. You understand? People might, I know because people think that there's always, we always go comment on men. I mean, as I said, but at the end of the day, we have to own up to it now. It's not to say that there must be toxic femininity too now, but that doesn't mean there's not toxic masculinity.
Let me comment there because I say I was unmuted. Before I comment on that, Cutter, I just want to say, all the fellas on this live here today, you all don't know how powerful what you're saying is and how much of an impact that will make the younger boys listening to this live. Like, you really don't know, right? So I want to encourage you to keep it up and keep going like that. And you're very brave and transgressive. And this is, you might like to hear it, but it is part of the feminist revolution, because the whole idea is to try to dismantle and decolonize the way we think. Corporal punishment in school is a product of colonization, and that's the heights that people don't want to understand. They don't want to get.
Correct.
Right? So this is yours, like, fellas, all your men here talking and saying this is transgressive, because you would hear it from women, young girls and things, but to hear guys actually try to dismantle hypermasculinity and still know and feel, because all in all, you're still men, you're still fellas. They're not shaking it up. They're not changing anything. So I just wanted to say that and keep going with it. And it's not that men are the problem, Cutter. It's not that man is the problem, men are the problem, males is the problem. But this whole idea of hypermasculinity, which is unrealistic and it is unattainable, right? It is a product of the patriarchal system. It's a product of society and culture. And like I said, unattainable and unrealistic. And men will constantly try to achieve that ideal. These things are ideals. You can't achieve ideals. That's why they call ideals, right? With the glorification of bad man thing, the glorification of a gangster lifestyle, because it seems to be paying off, because the system, the education system, the society, the job system, the economics, these things are not paying off for them. So who's the problem? The problem is not the bad man and it's not the criminals. I know that's real controversial to say, but it is not, because people aren't born bad. They're not born criminals. We're not born like that. Our natural inclination as humans is to be loving and kind and compassionate. But we grow up telling fellas, don't hug up your friend. Don't go and be nice to them. Go and cuff them down. They hit you, go and hit them back. Man up. What kind of man is? So all of these things is very layered and intersectional, right?
Everything is cause and effect. So yes, a man must take, responsibility for his actions. If you do wrong, you're wrong. But at the same time, if we as a society going to solve these problems, we have to figure out where it's coming from. You understand? And corporal punishment, cutas. She says, "Shit, when I was going to school, I get cutas. People get cutas." It was a way of keeping people kind of in check, but did it really help us as people? No, it did not. I mean, they got cutas. Yeah, you might behave well, but did it really impact it? Can we all look back and say, "Boy, I'm glad I get a cutas"? You know, not really. You understand? What we used to be more glad for is that we had teachers who used to really try to impact us. The same people who cut us, maybe, but if it is that they had other things that they did for us, or even the woman who didn't cut my ass in naps, are the people who really, in certain ways, were the ones who actually open their eyes to certain realities. You know, and big up Miss Alexander and so on. You know, out there in Australia, you know, one of the best teachers ever, and it's like these people they made a bigger impact with what they did than the man and the dean and them who cut in your ass at the end of the day. That was much more important. But keeping on schools on, moving away from the topic of corporal punishment, moving away from violence, and looking at our next reality, which we're now working right now to our current acute situation, is that now children who are vaccinated are being taught. Now, this is a very controversial thing, right? But what and you know, it's a big. And if we get into that too deep, it might take forever. But what I want to say is let's move it away from the schools now and talk about vaccination on the whole, right? And so we have the measure for vaccinated children in Form 4s and 6 to go out to school and teachers to go out to them while balancing the fact that most of the children online. The system is not catered for these two things to happen together. It wasn't even catered for online. It was a whole learning curve that took place, and now they're telling, and then it is something that we will have to see what play off, right? Again, with most things in Trinidad, we just have to wait and see what go on, because we really don't know what it is really just be going on. But when we look at the bigger society, they have the safe zones now. So moving away from using the education system as a method to make sure people know they have to get vaccinated, which is what's going on, you have the safe zones. And you have this whole idea that people cannot go to certain places if they are not vaccinated, all in a drive to, you know, push vaccination and for safety. But it is very controversial because of the nature of the virus, the nature of society, the issue of, you know, people's rights, people's individuality and choice. Who is the brave person to jump in on their thoughts on this topic at this point in time from this panel? You could look at it from the education angle, you could look from the safe zone angle. The vaccination has always been a big thing for this show. We have gone to the depth and the edge and back.
Let me hear from Smash, since he ain't get much airtime for the episode.
Mr. Vashish Siraj Singh, talk to us.
We're hearing you right now, brother. What's going on?
I think you're on the mute, or maybe you mute him, Tori. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, you're good.
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
My take on this is, I think it have two ways to look at it. One, we have kids who just is not their choice, right? Because their parents making the choice for them. Their parents not going to take the vax. You're not going to get the vax. They have no say in it, and because of that, it's going to affect everything that's going on. I could understand the fact that teachers feel, well, it's not safe for you all, for them unvaxxed kids to come to school, to mix with the vax kids, to mix with the vax teachers. Like, we just created a whole, to me, like a domino effect of problems if we do that. I think we have no choice but to keep the unvaxxed kids home separated from the vax kids, because at the end of the day, we can't keep exacerbating the problem. And to me, that's just a recipe for disaster.
But what the reality is that, Vashish, that none of the in certain schools, none of the children are really vaxxed, and they're making teachers come and teach one child, two child, and that's what happening. Teachers going to teach one child, and the rest of the children home, and the rest of the children, and they don't have systems in school to say that every teacher walking in with a laptop and pulling up the laptop and they're teaching this 2-3 children here, and it's a real confusing situation. And then, like, Form 1s, 2, 3, not in school. Full stop. They say they might bring them out now. They say they hint into what's it that if things go according to plan. So you have a situation that these younger children who are not exam children are home, and they're not ever going to be in school. And if a teacher in school to do Form 4 and Form 5, and the school, and I mean, you can't teach in a staff room because the other teachers, everybody there, can't be everybody tattling. And not every classroom is going to have internet. So I understand what you're saying, Vash, but in this reality now, we have to understand, okay, so is it really wise with the the figures of vaccination doesn't really point towards children coming out to be taught as something that will work now. Well, I don't know if anybody else, in light of what I am saying here, has anything to say about that.
Devin, I know Devin Keeson had something to say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I would say from my experience with this whole situation where the kids needed to be vaccinated, we had more teachers and staff members than students. On the first day of school, we had 102 staff members out, and we had 32 children. Right? So what? What sense does it really?
And then the staff room, you cannot distance in the staff room if that is the case.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem, right? I mean, I could get deep into the situation on a personal level, right? And I will probably stir up a little thing with it, but I would encourage anyone to get vaccinated. If you can, you consult your doctor. You feel that is a good personal choice for you, go ahead, right? I am not allowed to take the vaccine because of my doctor, right? I spoke to my doctor, and I work in a school, right? So I work around these students. So what are you telling me there? Because I am not vaccinated, I can't work there? No, you're not telling me that. But you're telling the students that are not vaccinated that they can't come out to school, right? There are certain schools like Fatima, they said that they are not doing any online classes at all
because of their numbers.
Yeah, because of their numbers. So you have to be vaccinated to come to school, right? So you are telling me, what are you really telling me, that you're gonna leave out the students that are not vaccinated in the education system? Even let's go deeper and say it's a personal choice by the students and their parents to not take the vaccine, right? Are you going to debar them from their education because of that system? I mean, there are certain questions that are not answered as yet. This COVID situation is a new situation for the entire world, and we're trying to work as best as possible in this pandemic, right? There are certain things that are not 100% sure. I was reading today on, just to make sure, the CDC, when they released their stuff, I could read it here. They were saying that it is possible that, when you are vaccinated, your transmission rates may be lower, but it's not. They said additional studies are needed to prove that, right? There are certain questions that needs to be answered, right? And I don't think that we should debar children from their education. We should try to work together. This situation, I will tell you, it is total chaos with this timetable, where you have one day you're teaching online, and the next day you are teaching in school, because that's what it is right now at my school, right? We have that situation because the infrastructure is not in place.
And that's the next thing.
Right?
Different schools will be doing different things.
Different
There's not
things.
a standardized protocol too for these things.
My school is basically, my principal told the teachers that they have to come out, all of them, even if Form 1 to 3 teachers, and they have to teach from school, right? That is her personal choice, right? Staff members as well. We were sent on rotation this week after coming out for the first week from the ministry because of the fact that there's total chaos going on in school. They sent us back on rotation after coming out full time for the first week because things are just going haywire right now.
Chaos.
The schools are not outfitted with the internet capability to run this type of operation, right? So you have to have that give and take. You understand? You have to have that give and take. You have the Ministry of Education to come and work with tutor, because as you can see, when it was coming up to right before school was open, tutor was saying one thing, Ministry of Education saying the next thing, and there's a whole disparity between the two of them.
I'm gonna show you our heights, right? So tutor, Lego released today showing their position on what Minister Gatsby Dolly, who said that they are going to look, once everything works a certain way, they are going to look at sending out Form 1s to 3s who are vaccinated. And tutor would have said that their thing is that, that is not a good plan, right? But that if it is that that this is what's going on with opening of schools, as it is right now, the way they're moving, that it will have no more online teaching, they say, because if we are really moving towards going out and bringing out students, right, it can have no online teaching. Now, the reality is that we know that most of the children online, not, well, okay, let me put it, if it have 100% is the amount of children in school, ballpark, about 20% of them, for sure, have not really been in school since school home, right? Have not really been taking education coming into online classrooms. And now of that 80%, which is probably high, might be less, of that 80%, you are now getting maybe a 5% of that coming out in the school right now. So you have that next 75% that just right now, right? And
most
now
of them choosing to do this school online.
Yeah, it is up to the teacher now to say, okay, how am I going to go in school and do this? Maybe I should carry my laptop. Maybe I should use my data. Maybe I could use this classroom. Maybe I have some, or maybe there are some areas that I can use things. But it will fluctuate within schools. It will fluctuate between teacher to teacher. There's no standard. So it is and the online started, turn a lot. The wheels of the online was going. I mean, people were in the system. I mean, we had more children learning. Now, again, education is not really the aim of this thing that's going on right now. Is a different thing. So, but it's sad that the education system has been used in this way. I mean, I understand that we are in a pandemic and all of that, but what is even more alarming is that today the ministry said, due to what tutor said and due to what they're seeing, the tutor say that what I just say, the tutor said, the ministry said, good. It seems that the way forward is children ages 12 to 18 who vaccinated coming out to school.
Yeah.
That's what the ministry now dropped this evening. They now dropped that on a social media release that people from children from 12 to 18, they have to come back out to school. Well, not have to. They say we are proposing given everything and thing. And it's like, so again, you see that how one thing being said, and they're citing tutor and all of that, and then they're making this thing what tutor actually saying, well, we don't really want that to know, but and but twisting what tutor say and saying, well, okay, they're saying they will come out and just do physicals, because they just get all the training physical. It's like, no, we wasn't saying that. We're saying that we'll only be able to do physicals, which means 75% of the training not going to get it.
Yeah. So, Carter, I have a question for you and Sarah as being teachers, right? So I'm talking to
maybe me more than Sarah, but continue.
Yeah. So talking to a lot of teachers where there's a split, right? This is regarding the online school. Do you think there's a big takeaway from the experience of school being online for students that warrants that you have to bring back out students to get the full experience of school? I mean, in the case of SBAs and stuff like that, and you come in and you do that. But
so do I think it is a big takeaway? I mean, like a big negative? What we're trying to say?
Yeah, like you missing a lot of stuff that you could only do in a classroom setting, face to face with the students, as per Microsoft Rooms. Teams,
so the question is, do I think that there's a lot being lost due to online school in teaching?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. There's a lot that has been added. Because these children, there's benefit from seeing things on screen. These children, there's benefit from seeing videos and things. And before, you didn't have, when you go in a classroom with no current and thing, what video you're showing, right? But so there were things that were gained as well. But definitely for young people, for young growing human beings, they need to be out in the world with other children, learning about life, that they're learning about life, you understand? And their education and all of that. They aren't post-grad people, sit down with a computer and doing the courses and things. This is not what they need. But because of the pandemic, of course, that is not on the cards, that's not in the cards. But yes, there would be, and I think Sarah could probably chime in on what she thinks is the difference between online learning and in-person learning, just as a from an educational standpoint, not.
Two points I have to say. One, What a lot of people didn't consider is that for a lot of students, school is their safe space.
Yeah. For
Okay,
real.
school is their safe space.
For real.
And you have a group of individuals, because teenagers, your interaction with your peers. I'm not saying it's not important at other stages of your life, but there's something about adolescence. Your peers and your interaction with your peers is very important, because you're rebelling against your parents. I mean, you could have perfectly wonderful, kind, loving parents, but as a teenager, your parents is the enemy, right? So you find that level of camaraderie with your students.
Your peers, yeah.
I agree with Yadav in the sense that because our lives are so screen filled, they actually absorb information much faster watching it on a screen. And that's not limited to teenagers, that's people too. The average person rather watch something in a video than read it. Right? Reading is a dying thing. I used to work in Petrotrin years ago, and I wrote something in a paragraph for email one day, and my boss called me and said, people don't like to read, you need to just put these things in point form. Nobody wants to read that.
Wow.
And this is
Right.
adults, right?
Big people.
Big people. But I think that's something that a lot of people yes, there's a risk if you come back to school, you could get seriously ill. I don't know how much. I mean, I can't speak for students. I'm not in their head too much, right? But I will say that you really saw, me as a teacher, you really see the importance of physical school. It's not that I'm advocating for physical school. I'm just saying it showed a lot of us the perspective of school was the happy place for many people, for many students.
Yeah. It's basically looking at the two systems of learning,
Yeah.
and then what does it mean? Because learning and curriculum delivery is one thing, but I think that our next thing to that, our ministry, and our country and our authorities on the whole tend to not be able to. You all hearing me good, right? Yeah, I just heard a big difference in my sound. That they don't seem to take in is that, okay, what are the intangible things that happen with this system too now? You understand? Besides the curriculum delivery now, there's something about the human being's development, and that's why we have school now. It's not just about, because that's why we make every child go to school, not just because if it was a thing where it's just about learning certain things, when they would have different systems for that now. It's about people coming together and all of that, and socializing and understanding how to navigate, right? But and we could talk more about that when we dive deeper with men like Manny, and we have a full teacher symposium here. We reached that point one day. But what Nanda is saying is that wasn't there a system last term bringing our students for practicals when I tried to find ways to improve when I started? Now the thing about the thing about that is that everything has always been, and this just me talking from the sense I make of that, Nanda, everything has always been just okay. School shut down, trying the online school, it working to our level, it has CXC and thing coming up, they can't do labs at home, how they going and pass the exam, they had to come out, right? It had no big set of vaccination drive and thing last year, and last 2 months on to a certain degree, but it was much more a pressing thing during when school had now drop out, when school had now stop and all of that and thing, right? And then last 2 months so on, as well, as you say. Now with vaccination drive and vaccination being the name of the game, there's a different bar set now for when people could enter into these things. Because, like, at the end of the day, people saying, I can't work with, I can't, like, let me be real, I can't. It's all about standards and the approach. I can't be 3 feet from somebody, or 6 feet, but if I end up in a rituals, I stand up right behind somebody to buy something. You understand what I'm saying now?
Yeah.
You understand? And we have to be honest about these things, that there are different codes for different places, and there are different, things that need to be upheld for these institutions that aren't like private business. You know what I mean? So it's very, very confusing for everybody. But the reason why that's not happening is because, like what she's talking about, bringing out students for practicals, is because it's that real children right now who cannot do a lab because they're not vaccinated and they have CXC coming up. And we waiting to hear, okay, when it is these children going to get to come out to do their lab? Because we waiting to see if it's going to change. Because at this point in time, if you have 3 children in a class of 30 who vaccinated, during this time, it seems that 3 more are getting vaccinated. Not 10 more, not 20 more. So where are we going to see the big drive take place that, okay, now everybody, it ain't going to happen. So, I mean, let me don't talk too much.
Well, just quickly, in terms of the safe zones, I think we have to wait and see how that turns out. I am in agreement with the safe zones. So let's wait and see how that happens. But in terms of stats, at least Trinidadians get in with the program, because the first dose, we hit just over 600,000, and the completed vaccination is just over 550,000. So we are progressing in terms of vaccination in Trinidad and Tobago.
What's our percentage now, Ramu? Just repeat that.
Completed vaccination over 550,000, and those that on the first dose is over 600,000. And the persons that are in the parallel healthcare system who are not vaccinated is 94.5%.
That's some alarming stats in a way, and some reassuring stats. So that's real stats.
And Delta at community stage. So don't be surprised these numbers start to go up.
Skew. It gotta get wild. It's gotta get wild.
Yeah.
Hit them with the curveball and the left hook. Right now, now with all that being said, let me talk about the safe zones now. And let me hear some thoughts on the safe zones. Constant the safe zone enforcement, people will have a lot to say about it. It's tricky. We know this. How important is it, and what is at stake in terms of why this measure? What do you think, Kansan?
Well, I think I firstly agree with it. I mean, we have to go back to some sort of normal. We need businesses to be able to open so that people can begin to sustain themselves and their employees once again. We need the activity in the economy. We need things to open up. That's the bottom line. And there's only one way for us to do that safely, based on the more accepted and well based on the facts, I should say. So I mean, I understand that there is going to be the pushback from those who aren't vaccinated. However, I have seen a lot of accommodation from a lot of the businesses. For instance, you have restaurants making exceptions to their service to be able to serve those who are unvaccinated. Of course, I'm sure certain organizations like the banks and stuff, they're still going to make their online services available to you. But I mean, it's sad that the system isn't exactly foolproof. And this is a country where you get fakes. Go a fetter and buy a bad ticket from a scalper.
You getting that? Like that vaccine card, my dogs. All you know, that vaccine card going and be running rampant on the black market right now.
Yeah.
Don't know.
You can easily photocopy it and put it on some cardboard. It's so simple.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it shows. I think we have data systems in this country, but it also goes to show that how we use the data systems that we have, that we don't have something like they have in the NHS, that people have something on their mobile phone. That's in the UK. They have something on their mobile phone with their vaccination records. I mean, we have data systems. We have the people in place for data entry. We have data systems, but it's never collated in the right way. And as a business consultant, I can tell you this has to be cultural, because so much businesses, you would see people taking in their data from their cash registers, data here, data there, but what they do with it. And I mean, I'm probably going off topic here, but that also speaks to our lack of innovation as a society. But I'll cut it short there.
No. I don't know. Go down with that a little bit now. I understand where you're going. TikTok, give it a little bit again. Let me hear about that.
Yeah, and
The
then
lack of innovation. Yeah. That lack of innovation.
Yeah, so I mean, the lack of innovation is because we don't, how to say, it isn't exactly an environment that
embraces new ideas.
Yeah, we are resistant to change.
And as younger folks like yourself, who would I want to say, well, look, Papa, barcode reader, anything, like you get them a little tailor, you do something dread now, boy. You know, there's like all of that, no, all take all the time now, fellas. So we don't get ahead of a barcode, so people are like, no. Let's just have a cardboard. That's what we know cardboard. We know cardboard. Let's give it cardboard, please.
But
right,
this is
my
the
partner
difficult
does
thing
sell
to
the
understand.
cardboard now, dog. My partner does sell the cardboard, so let's just sell the cardboard now, boy.
But the thing is, there's so much. I mean, millennials now are entering their 40s. So there are millennials in management positions. There are millennials in leadership positions in the country. So I think that's becoming less and less of an excuse. So we have to ask ourselves, why now do we always get so entrenched in the way we do things and find it difficult to unlearn what we've learned and grown accustomed to, you know?
They have been indoctrinated, my friend, into a different game. And it starts with Bob and it ends with all. Now, moving on.
But they are.
Yes. Take it away, Gavin. Take it away.
Yeah, they are planning to bring the app. They are working on the app to have the mobile passport now. When it comes in, we don't know. But at the end of the day, he's right. There are going to be, people who fortune these documents. Now, in terms of the safe zone, I totally agree with that. Because at the end of the day, we are still in a pandemic and people don't realize we're not coming out. We can get there, right? But it's something that we have to live with for a while, right? This is something that we're going to have to live with for a while. And, I mean, people could do without, if you're not vaccinated or you're choosing not to take the vaccine, you could do without going to a bar or cinema or things like that, right? I was reading some comments and stuff online where people were saying that, they should make places like supermarkets and things a safe zone now. I mean, you can't really do that now. You can't really do
safe zones is things that is luxuries too in our way, guys. I'll be honest. We know what have essential things that we never could have touched because people have to get their food. Come on.
Exactly. And there are models that, I mean, as we are saying, everything is new, and there are models that we are following. Look, Denmark was one of the first places to introduce the vaccination passport or the card, where you go into places, you have to present that, right? And they right now, if you follow any news, they are possibly on their way to a fourth wave, but they are doing away with the passport because they reached a certain quota in their vaccination drive now, which was a little over 70%, right? So they are, I think next month they are going to relax that whole vaccine passport, and they are going to go back out and lift the restrictions and go back out to normal. So
where's this?
Denmark. So me being a person who couldn't take the vaccine, I still would encourage a lot of people, and I do support the safe zone situation and the passport situation. Just the education system that we have right now, I don't think with certain things that we are working with, we need to find a way to get all these students included into and not left out of the system.
It's a little extreme, and overall, a lot of people, the safe zone thing is a very extreme thing too, but it's one that you can understand. The education one, you can't really look to understand that is very controversial and needs to be challenged a bit. Definitely, it needs to be challenged a bit, and it is being challenged by the union and so on. Because at the end of the day, last time we were opening up and everybody went back out and thing and Lyman and thing, it didn't spell well for a lot of scenes. We are still recouping from what happened last time we opened up. So they need to put something. Overall, we touch a lot on this vaccine topic and the safe zones and all of that. I think the last thing we could touch on for the last 15 minutes is probably the budget and what people's thoughts on the budget was a little bit, or what would the overall allocations and the high points. I see that pigtail was the big the discussion. Ramu, was this the pigtail? That was the VAT removed from the pigtail or something like that?
Yeah, VAT was removed from the pigtail, and there is this theory that the Minister of Finance was kind of threw that towards a section of the Muslim community, because if you recall the background at the time, Inshan Ishmael, Dr. Keith Rowley, the Prime Minister, was at it in terms of him cursing him in a text message. So people are thinking, okay, come in, but must you just throw a pigtail to get Inshan Ishmael vex? But in terms of the budget, it was uninspiring, but at the end of the day, what exactly he could do, he could just repeat what he have to say.
Let me ask a bigger question. Why we just even look so much forward to the budget though? Except, okay, yes, we really looking to see if the price of gas raise and thing. That's all we really studying now. Why is the budget? Why do we wait for the, which, correct me if I'm wrong, people. Which other country does look at their budget? Like the budget is today. That's a normal thing, or that's a Trinity thing, or what it is? Or somebody.
People forward to the budget. What do you mean?
Well,
let me hear what the Canadian. Let me hear what the Canadian budget. What is the vibes there? Let me hear what the Canadian. People be like budget day, big thing, and thing.
I wouldn't say people just be like budget day, and
Nah, in Trinidad is budget day. Let's be honest, Trinidad is budget day.
But I just be on the budget. People want to see what the government doing. People want to see where the government spending the money. People want to do, especially up there because Justin Trudeau run him out. They want to see where he can give him money. If he can give indigenous people the money, when they can give money to pipeline. So people just pay attention, bro.
Right. No. Would you say that how the things that happen in the budget come on the heels of a lot of lobbying and things that take place during the year that people know that there's a big okay, right. But that's no, so that I don't think even happens here now, if you understand what I'm saying. That people tend to just look for a certain kind of information in the budget here that you don't really get in what you're looking for in the. That is my take on it, but I don't know. Ramu.
Well, it's like this. For the past few years, when it comes to the budget, I think a lot of the population expect Minister Imbert to do something very drastic. So when budget come in, it's like, oh my God, what he's going to do? He going to raise price on gas, on TNTech bill going up, XYZ is the case. And then when budget come, you realize, okay, it's not so bad. Okay, it might have some certain points doesn't make sense, some might make sense. But we have to admit that in all the past budgets, the minister didn't do anything draconian towards the population. But in terms, he's very repetitive that he will say he will do X, Y, and Z, and then the next year budget, he says he's going to do X, A, B, and C, X, Y, Z again. No. And what a lot of people are thinking is that he is just having the economy on neutral, hoping that oil and gas prices will go back up, and not to do anything really to diversify the economy. And even if diversifying the economy is something on the small end of things, which takes years to do.
Well, that's a song we could write, yeah? Diversification. That would be the biggest song in the government.
Since the 70s, we're talking about
diversification of the nation. Now watch me him out. My thing was this. Let me try to refine what I'm trying to say. Tutorial. When they look at the budget in Canada, is it out of fear?
Out of fear? I wouldn't say it's out of fear. No.
Ramu, would you say the budget is a big thing because of fears?
It is a fear because they're thinking he's going to do something.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at. There's something drastically wrong with our culture, which every year we look at something because of our fear that this thing going to change and that thing going to change and we're not going to get paid enough and this going to grow in price and this thing. Whereas in other places, you're going to see the allocation towards industries, towards communities, towards things, which they do here. But that's not what we're watching for. We're watching to make sure that how we could still buy gas to go down and buy a bacon shack that's not going to go up too much in price, and then also get the rum that's not going to go up too much in price and that kind of thing, and also be able to, well, I won't say the rest of things, but continue. Right.
Rashesh, what's your thoughts on the budget there, brother?
So I actually didn't realize this, but I was reading up some views on it from economists and stuff, and Mala Dukaran actually pointed out something that blew my mind. It's like, this is the first budget ever read that the Minister of Finance did not review the financials for the past fiscal year. So we have no idea how much we actually spend, what we borrow, what's going on. It's like a black hole of information. The rugs over everybody's eyes because we just like focusing on COVID and the impact and saying we don't know what's going on. And I find, to me, that's like the wildest thing. And
That is
people
actually quite shocking.
generally, the typical Trinidadian doesn't care because like everybody hopping around Musin. I think people just want to know, do I need to go and line up for gas because I'll save $3? Did kids raise all those things? Like people just not seeing the bigger picture now, and it kind of scary because this diversification thing going on since we small. What diversify since then?
Since
What
the
almost
70s.
done?
Exactly.
Like it wild. It really disappointing to me.
That's a
every
good point that
government
Vashish
just
made.
disappointing.
That's a real good point that Vashish made, because people just don't care. They don't realize that the government, at the end of the day, is representing us. And there's a situation where Qatar was talking about, you don't really know what is going on. So basically, this budget, they're giving you an overview of everything. So they're telling you, okay, so we based on this current budget here, it's a $9 billion deficit budget, right? And we based it on a oil price of $66 a barrel, right? And then you come in and you're saying, well, basically, we're giving this sector this amount, that sector this amount, and whatever. But you're not really quantifying like your return. So basically, the government needs to run the country like it's a business, and we are the stakeholders, so we need to have the information that we are not getting. So basically, okay, so you say you're gonna invest something in tourism, right? You're gonna X amount of figures, right? This year you said what? You're gonna create a hotel. You invest in $500 million in a hotel in Tobago, right? In 2019, our returns from tourism, an average, was that same figure, right? So from a business standpoint, you're not really getting these statistics easily. You invest in X amount in Carnival. What is the return? What are you doing with the money, right? In this budget, he said this budget was a stabilization budget to stabilize the economy or whatever, to keep the ship moving. But in this budget, you really did not hear what are their plans to generate income. You're saying how we're gonna spend the money, but you're not really saying how we're gonna generate some kind of income into the society. I was looking forward to hearing about the refinery that they mothballed and left there. What is going on with that? Nothing. It was just basically a snapshot. And the information, I'm telling you, I was always looking for the information on what are the returns from these investments that we are doing into certain sectors. And it's not clearly apparent what they are really doing. Now, I'm not bashing the government. They have their pros and their cons. Every government does in Trinidad and Tobago. But in terms of this budget, I'm not. It was just basically a vague snapshot of what is going on, but not too much of detail.
Sarah, I know you had some thoughts you wanted to share there with us.
Well, yeah, that's still my point. We watch it out of fear because, I mean, I went into the mall while the budget was being read. And, the business owners were complaining quite a lot about that budget. I can't say which business owner, but it's really a situation of, oh God, boy, this budget this year is going to be real bad, Or you brace yourself for the budget. So everybody kind of sitting down watching the budget, just to see how bad it is or how bad we have to brace for the next year to be. And I mean, that is really what we do. We really watch it. And then, I've said it too.
Oh God, we great minds, my friend, great minds. And you know what? I'm really, really happy to have these minds with me here tonight, and I really enjoyed tonight's episode and this being our season finale, because we need to take a little break. We need to step back a bit, think about how we grow in this show, because the show has shown its potential. I would say the show has shown its potential. Not every week we have the same amount of viewers, but we always have a constant flow of viewers. We don't go beyond a certain point. We're always there. And then when certain topics come up, well, then things just get wild, right? And I mean, I really wish Leslie was here to talk about how Hytrum started, because it was really Leslie contact me and say, Kata, as we watching you going live on Facebook, dog, and we talking real heights, dog, you know? And because Leslie's a man, he went up something, but he wasn't in my ear. We never were really partners at all, really, and truly. We know each other. You know what I mean? And, you know, he reached out, we meet up in Starbucks. He said, boy, I don't really come in this place and thing, you know, boy, thing, you know. He said, this how much is buy coffee for here, boy? And like, you know, those real kicks. And, you know, he's like, wait, boy, judgment, Rastafari, you know. But he was, you know, the energy I got from him, I was like, yeah, you want to do something, and you know about this kind of thing. And I'm like, sometimes need a push. Sometimes you need a little push, you need a little somebody to come and tell you, let me do this thing now, boy. Right? And that's how we jump out, and we started with the long format things, which were more like a Joe Rogan kind of thing, where we used to go in actual studio and have two guests, sit down and talk for 3 hours, you know, about anything that come to mind, real Joe Rogan, kind of vibes for those who's watched those kind of the podcasts and thing. And then came, you know, the fact that Leslie had to fly out, and then came COVID. And those two things kind of became like the same thing, because Leslie not here, so I physically can't do it with him, and then I can't meet with anybody because there's COVID. And we had a lull for a while. And then when I saw that this thing became the norm, that people doing, you know, these, you know, live conferencing and thing, everybody accustomed coming on the computer and talking for meetings. I'm like, Dread, well, let's try to do this. And then I checked my boy Torian, come here, and Torian is our Dobricks, right? Which was our audio podcast, no video. And how we used to do that was he used to tape it on his end. I used to tape it on my, I used to join the files together. We saw the clap and thing and thing, real heights and thing now. To join the files together, because he was in Canada, I was here, you know. And I said, Torian, you know, on the heights room, let me see what it go be, just have a little extra guest and thing now. And then from that Torian become a host. You understand? Because then I realized that it can't have me unless you alone running this thing, because a little too out there. You understand? You had the ground, you know, you had the ground, you had the foundation now, boy. You can't just have the, you know, the balloon in the air now, boy. So so, you know, with Torian came that level of groundedness and and centering, and also being that other voice to kind of bring that other perspective. And then I would have reached out to different people here at certain points, like Renell. You know, Renell came for this episode that way we tried to tackle something that we found very close to our hearts and thing. And Renell, I just want to ask you, coming on the show, and the fact that you are from a non-profit organization and that deals with something so serious that goes under treated in the country. How important are platforms like yours, like ours? You all go live a lot and talk and thing. How important are these platforms?
Yeah. Just before I comment on that, I just want to say that I was listening to all you since Dobricks, since that inception. Yeah.
Right. You see, you have Dobricks for there.
Yeah, good. We good, right?
Yeah. Well, we go back a long time.
Yeah, I was saying there's like a little reunion here first, because we did our degree together. We graduated in 2009 or something else. Really
correct.
But you, me, Sarah, I know Devin, and you know what I mean, it's like a little reunion, and it's really good to see. I tell you, young people need to be taken more seriously. Ageism is a thing, right? We need to do away with it. So God, young people this, young people that, they don't know what they want, they don't know what they're saying, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they're talking, right? But I know we're not that young, but still young, right? But I think it's really good to see a platform like this where people could identify. It's not no kind of stush, kind of high class kind of vibes going on. We're talking normal, but it's still heights. We still understand each other. We could identify with each other, right? And I think that is a gap. That is a hole. That's something that you all fill in, definitely. And we at the Silver Lining Foundation, that's the same thing we try to do as well. You know, we try to be progressive. You try to be liberal, youth-focused, youth-centered, right? Currently, right now, we're doing something that's real taboo. We're trying to push for comprehensive sex ed in schools, right?
Important.
It's real important. And that would also include emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, how to deal with you know, the other sex or gender persons in the environment and all of that. And so what we do, we take it very seriously, and I take what you all doing very seriously at the same time as well. And it was really good to see that you all had us on the show. Because people not brave, Cutter, people not brave
It is
anymore.
very hard to get
so
guests.
hard to be. You call me an unapologetic feminist,
Mhm.
and I see you all as being very unapologetic in your heights, in your
Mhm.
discourse, in what it is you want to say to the population, where you want people to come back and talk to you. This is our conversation. This
It is.
not,
It is.
you're not
You
on
know.
a platform and you preaching down to people. Like, that's old time kind of thinking. Like I said, we need to decolonize. I'm a big proponent of decolonizing the way we think and how we see. We're living in a post-colonial, neo-colonial society, and we need to start doing this. This is part of the process of
I hear
decolonizing.
you. I
So,
hear you.
yeah,
I hear
I
you.
mean,
Freedom of speech. It's
yeah,
underappreciated and under champion. Freedom of speech is not championed in Trinidad and Tobago.
definitely. And I mean, I support you all. And I think that we need to remember, though, because this was a big controversial topic last time. We need to remember that while we're doing all of this liberal, progressive kind of stuff, we need to be ethical. We need to still come to it with a certain degree of ethics, a certain degree of compassion and kindness, right? And openness as well, yeah? But
Correct.
you know, I remember that episode with
Yeah,
James.
yeah.
That was a
And
big
it ruffled a lot of feathers, but and we talked about that in that episode that we learn, and also we still stand by a lot of things that we do, because what we really want is for people to see what it is really going on out there. That is we sing, that we think now. But I'll ask you this, since you're watching since Dobricks now, what you would say is one of your favorite? Of course, when you come on and we love that one, but what was one of your most favorite episodes that you're watching? It's like, wait.
You wouldn't believe it. I didn't think it would have actually caught my attention. I watched that whole episode with Julian Goddard with the chocolate making.
Yeah.
I was like,
right.
wow,
Yeah. Different.
Because she as well, she spoke about this chocolate manufacturing so passionately, right? And I am a person of passion. I'm passionate about what I do, passionate about my politics, my feminism, the same way that you're passionate about all these social issues. And I think that's the strength, right? That's the strength that all you have, right? And keep going with that flow. Every episode, it could be talking about the blasted traffic. Now let's talk about older guy, right? And I was like, I wonder if
Dr. Furlong, yeah. Easy.
That was heights. That was interesting, because what you all do is that you go beneath the surface of the issues. You talk about things that people don't want to hear, they don't want to talk about. Sometimes it might seem like you're preaching to the choir, you're speaking to the people who think you like you. It might seem like that, but don't let that stop you from doing it and continue doing it and being better. But yeah, I like that chocolate process chocolate episode.
When we rock back, my friend, we have to come bigger and better now. And my boy Timothy Bailey is in the comments. Big up Timothy Bailey. And I saw you on Michaela Pandey show, Timothy. Good showing. All right. Maybe soon we will have you and her on the show. You never know. You never know. Dun, dun, dun. Right. Now Vashish, what was your favorite show?
Well, it had real heights and real shows, first of all.
Yeah. Well, let me hear your favorite.
Special mention to my dogs, Dr. Parag and stuff. That was
God, well, I know you had a big up Dr. Parag.
But she touched on actually my favorite episode, which to me was the most interesting one, the traffic one. I cannot believe that guy, that guest, and the things I learned in that to me was the most. I didn't think a mundane topic like traffic would have hit so much heights. But the things that man got into, and the shit I learned about Trinidad and the infrastructure and the roads and the real problems is like, this is the essence of the heights room, and the heights we just touched on. That was like the most heights. I really enjoyed that episode.
Kansan, I know you. Kansan is one of the most regular viewers we have and regular engaging commenters. Once he could make, he's there and he always brings a certain amount of insight in the comments. But Kansan, what would be the one where he was like, yeah, boy, I had to make sure and watch this show from now on.
Difficult to say. I think I can't remember the topic in particular, but there was one in the earlies that kind of got me. But more so than the topics themselves, what I appreciate is the ebb and flow of things and how they are here. I think like we get caught up in the extremes so much, and this is something you and I have spoken about, that we get caught up in the extremes so much that there needs to be a space in our country where people could just talk about things now and if you can't, at least if you can't go away in agreement, at least go away having heard the other party out and understand some of the human issues on the other side of the aisle. And that is why things like this are abundantly important, and it would be so fantastic to see things like this grow and become like more mainstay among regular people,
And we need to, we have there are a lot of people out there doing good things, and the show needs to grow, and we need to grow with the rest, because this show is not about like, it's some kind of thing where like it's all about the views and it's all about, the clout. That's not what it's about. And if we are going to impact, we need to start, growing with the community of creators and speakers out there, with the other people who want to get engaged, because we can do more outreach and get more people on this show and grow from strength to strength. But it takes some work. A lot of people ask us, so how does do this show? Well, it's like plan and thing, or like every week is like, yeah, we do. We had to take some time every weekend and talk and thing and have a next show all together sometimes by just talking and reaching out to people. It takes work, and it's not something that we do out of anything but for passion, the passion of it. And even that in itself, we have to take a step back now and say, okay, how are we keeping it growing? How are we keeping it flowing? And
that's something that stands out, the preparation.
Yes, the preparation. You have to you have to prepare, because if
it's abundantly clear.
It's abundantly clear. If you fail to prepare to fail. I learned that from Smokey's gym. It was on the wall. Smokey's gym. I will never forget Smokey's gym had on the wall. If you fail to prepare to fail. Rest in peace, Smokey. Great guy. Now, Michaela, great job, guys. You all have my support. Thank you, Miss Pandey, for the support, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors as well. And I started looking at your show; it's really well done. So keep it up. Mr. Kisoon, you're deep in the phone there. I know the fans reaching out, but tell us what was the episode that you remember the most?
The one with Dr. Siram and Jason. I mean, I remember when you had approached me about this show, and you told me from the onset that you're gonna do this thing with Leslie, and you asked me to do a piece of graphics for the first Heights Room icon.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
And the purple one, very pretty.
Yeah, and I did it in Photoshop for you and thing, and I was like, there's a good avenue you're gonna open up here, because from ever since we know each other, we talking heights. Let me be real, right?
Correct.
And I saw the show grow from strength to strength. But that was one of the episodes when I realized was this platform is a platform for everyone, no matter what is your opinion, what is your take, you will be listened to, and it's out there, and it's among intellect, and it's a certain group of people. I mean, there's no discrimination here, but there's a certain group of people with an open-mindedness that we need in Trinidad, or we need in society at large.
It needs to be normalized. These kind of talks,
It needs to be out in the open. Don't fear anything that is happening or anything like that. Come out and speak your mind, and I am really proud of you guys. I know I always tell you that, Potter. I will tell you that.
Thank you, brother.
Again. I am proud of you guys for this show, and love and respect always. So let's go in, guys. Looking forward to come back again and talk some nights.
Sarah, you must have had a show that you like more than the others. I feel I know which one it is.
I remember this show with Terrence, the best.
Yes. Well, that was the big one. That was the one where he's like, okay, guys.
But
it could get very wild. 200 plus live. I was like, God, that was there.
But I also, more than anything, because I was there in Starbucks when you and Leslie were talking. And
yes, when me and Leslie met, Sarah was in the area, and she pulled a chair and she ended up. So she saw a Heights Room. Wasn't even anything but an idea. She was there.
Idea, and they were thinking about, well, what are we gonna talk about, and what are we gonna make this about, and it was interesting to see how it has evolved, Of course, the original plan has changed a little bit because it was really sounding spacey, and it was really,
Yeah.
I gave him for a spacey episode like that,
Yeah, when Leslie come back, you can see the spaciness.
But that's actually what is etched in my mind, sitting in Starbucks and just hearing this idea and seeing this idea come to life. It's nice to see it, and I'm very proud. I'm very happy to be here because I'm not a limelight person, but I'm happy and I'm proud of you all and the work
and
that
I know I could have get you to come and reveal some of the heights, you understand? And I was thinking twice about it, but I'm glad that you're here as well. And I always remember you was there. So I say one day I had to come on the show because I always say let's be bringing Sarah. And he always saying, he's always be like, why is Sarah not on the show yet? She was one of the first people we say we'd bring on the show, but he was on the show today. But you see how things work. Leslie not here today, so I had to come back when Leslie is here, right? Mr. Ramu, thank you so much, Sarah. Mr. Ramu, tell me something now. Tell me something now.
Well, I remember the first episode where I was on the couch and he was talking about the back in times. And what I'm very impressed is the episode that stood out for me was discipline, production, and tolerance. That is when you went there. You went to somewhere that is very controversial. And what stood out for me, well, as you know, I'm a bit into geopolitics and stuff. And a lot of the talking points, you could image where it came from. So talking point X, okay, that comes from Fox News. Talking point Y, okay, that's Breitbart. Talking point Z, that is MSNBC. So you realize where a lot of these talking points coming from. But that episode, you all went to the next level, and I must congratulate you for that. And you have made 30 episodes. I hope you may make 30 more, and I know more will be coming next year. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Much appreciated. I think that is the whole panel gave it a little faves there, and I mean we will be growing, guys. But as to how and what will have to take place for that growth, if we have to change some of the things in the format, we will have to decide over this break, where we really step back and reflect and recollect. And then people have been reaching out to us about certain things that they have on their in their labs that we may have to collaborate on. You understand? And that is something that, as I say, we can only grow with the collective. You understand? Collective has to grow.
But dog, what's your favorite episode?
Mine?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, the most traumatic one was that same one. This introduction. That one, and that was all when I was like, I gotta get this done. I always say when we do in this show, we have to get that episode. If I have a next episode I want to do like that, but that will take some work too, because I can't end up in the same position I end up in with that one. Because after that one, I was like, God, what really happened just now?
I was really stressed.
It was stress, and then the internet was breaking down.
It tested you a lot.
It was the internet. I was like, no, I can't be on this. Ever since that, I buy a 100-foot Ethernet cable at jacked in, no matter where I go, a jacked in. But I would say, I like the episodes. I don't have any one because there's so much is put into each one. But I love when we have a team like this, when we get the bigger circle, so we bring in people and we just shoot the breeze. Sometimes those are the ones that stand out more to me, because that is where the real core of the energy is for me, that we can get people to come and express themselves. And when it comes to I think one of the most in terms of our technical and overall moderation, I think that was real good. I think Torian, was it the one with traffic? I think we was like, this one on real. Was it traffic or was it I think it was traffic or
traffic was real light.
We just run. Like I think it was, we just had no problem with moving from one thing to the other.
It was just smooth.
It was just smooth. And I was just like, because sometimes it's how the things where I'm like, okay, think the only thing with that one was I couldn't find the share screen. But Dr. Furlong couldn't find the share screen. It was giving us no trouble. But yeah, and I know Patrick, but when it comes to the controversial episodes, I'll have a deep love for the Petritrin, and for when we bring on my boy Timothy and we talk about those kind of things. And overall, I just want to tell everybody thank you for giving us the support. Thank you, Torian, for always putting the time. Leslie not here, but if Leslie could have been here, he was here, right? And Leslie's the man that say we had to go to level 5 heights now, fellas. We had to go to the higher height now. Right now he would be full 100. He would be right up, and then at that time Leslie and Leslie's coming some questions sometimes. He said, Leslie, we will talk till 12 o'clock. He's like, die nothing. But that is the energy. We bounce off each other's energy, and everybody who comes in, we accept energy here now. You understand? It's all about the energy, and with that being said, it's 10:18. We moving like Leslie tonight. We want to stop talking.
We gotta make up the absent.
But before you go, you didn't tell the people congratulations in winning your post in the future. You didn't give them the update. I tell you was going to win, and I vouch for you. You win.
And Timothy come that day and say, I see you on a slate.
Yes.
But yes,
we did. Congratulations, my brother.
It's no secret that there's a lot of NAPSmen has been involved in this show, and we have taken over the alumni now. So the alumni has grown from strength to strength, and we have done that because we want to see change. And I could get into a lot of things about that, but I wouldn't, because at the same time, this is not the platform for that. It might be with some drinks and closed doors. But with that being said, we have to always understand that it is our time, people. It's our time to start to shine and show that how. And it's not about no material shine. You understand? It's from the core of our hearts we have to shine. You understand? We have to do what we think is right for the whatever institutions or communities, whether it be your work, your line of work, whatever it is, your passions. You have to do it, and you will see that it will have a avalanche effect in the future. You understand? It'll have but you can't sit and just say like, okay, this would have been nice if things could have been that way. No, it can't be that way, my friends. It can't be that way.
The change.
That'll be the change, and there's no joke talk. And you have to not study that people go say you're looking stupid and thing. All right, and who the hell is he to say that? And you can't study that, my friends. You have to come out and speak your truth. You understand? Linton, you agree with me there?
Of course. All right,
don't let that cut our shame out now, boy.
I know when I type that thing there.
I know you. All right. With that being said, guys, I want to thank everybody who watches the show, once, twice. Today's your first day. It don't matter. Once you make time to watch and understand the vibes we on, we're gonna keep bringing it. As my boy Shervan say, Mr. Bola himself, right? Bola boy, a legend dog. Watch me. He said the future looks bright, and we leave it at that. With that being said, everybody, thanks to all my guests for coming tonight, especially on short notice, some of you, Sarah. All right. We look forward to more. With that being said, blessed love. Take it easy.
All right.
Later.
Until next year, January.
Let's stay on the call. And we'll end it.
Well,
Yeah.